It is certainly my intention that the draft bill, which is expected to be narrow in scope, which clearly sets out what is and what isn't a conversion practice, so that we have that clarity, should be brought forward, I would hope, September, October of this year.
Hi, my name's Graham Thompson. What you can see here are MPs debating a petition to restore trans to the conversion therapy ban that took place in Westminster Hall on Monday the 13th of June. Lasted 2.5 hours. I watched it all live. I was hoping to be able to do some flash PIP clips of this, but unfortunately my computer screams for mercy when I do that, so I shall intercut a couple of those. The revolutionary communist wing of the Conservative Party turned up in force for this, as did their Year Zero colleagues from the various other parties, who were, of course, debating in favour of the trans inclusion. Those speaking against really didn't give themselves much of a look in. Boris Johnson broke a chain of cowardice and depravity when he heeded the consultation which he extended to its normal time and refused to present a conversion therapy ban before Parliament. Canada, Australia and New Zealand had fallen like dominoes, overwhelmingly voting to lock up anyone who tries to stop mentally ill children from being mutilated, or giving homosexuals who don't want to be homosexual the counselling and prayer they ask for. Canada, the first domino to fall, unanimously voted for this depraved fascist evil. Such is the cut-out state of Canada's Conservative Party. I am a Conservative, a Christian Conservative, but any Democratic Party, left, right or centre, none of them should even countenance for a nanosecond supporting such vile totalitarian evil as this. And in my opinion, especially not Conservatives. Now, these MPs were of course gathered at Westminster Hall because within 3 hours Boris Johnson did a semi-volte-face and brought back the LGB conversion therapy ban in the hope of appeasing his revolutionary communist colleagues in the Parliamentary Conservative Party. One Conservative MP who spoke at this debate, who is not a revolutionary communist, is this lady, the Right Honourable Jackie Doyle-Price MP. Listen very carefully to this clip I'm going to play of what she had to say and the intervention.
For some people, gender dysphoria is a permanent condition which does need to be alleviated with treatment. But for others, it can be a symptom of something else. This is not a straightforward condition that has the same pathology in all people that experience it. We know that it's prevalent amongst people with autism. We also know it's prevalent, it can often be a very common thing to experience by girls going through puberty.
Yeah. I'm very grateful to the Honourable Lady for giving way, and I wonder if I can just ask her and any other members in the room thinking of making that connection between trans and autism to be more thoughtful about how they are expressing that, because there are a number of people watching and listening to this who will find that particularly unhelpful, and I think that we can probably be a bit more nuanced in our language.
Well, I think it is important that we actually really do understand what we're talking about when we look at gender dysphoria. It can also be a symptom of trauma. And it's very important that we have these therapeutic care pathways. And we can shake your head. You know, I'm talking about this from experience, having looked deeply when being responsible for this area of medicine.
So the Honourable Kirsten Oswald MP, with the eager nodding support and hears from her colleague by her side, the Honourable Stephen Doughty MP, SNP and Labour respectively, objects to autism and trauma being cited as major factors behind gender dysphoria. Let's hear what the interim CAS report has to say about that. Approximately 1/3 of children and young people referred to GIDS, Gender Identity Development Service of the NHS, have autism or other types of neurodiversity. And in this chart that Dr. Cass provides in her report, amongst the 5 major factors behind gender dysphoria that she lists is sexual abuse and other trauma. These 2 MPs are monsters. They don't want the facts to get in the way of children being mutilated. In 2020, flushed with their success in 2019 of all but 21 MPs waving the white flag to the Predators Charter of compulsory LGBTQ grooming in schools from kindergarten. A group of LGBT activists came together, led by this lady, Jane Ozanne, to form the Ban Conversion Therapy Coalition. When Jane Ozanne is perfectly happy to campaign alongside Britain's paedophile enabler-in-chief, Peter Tatchell, for a conversion therapy ban, this by itself is reason enough to believe there is a paedophile agenda behind what they call a conversion therapy ban. You only have to scratch an inch beneath the surface of LGBTQ to see a clear and obvious paedophile agenda staring back at you. At the end of this video, I am going to issue LGBTQ scratch cards. And one of the things you will see on those scratch cards is this. If you want to stop the video to read Mr. Peter Tatchell's paedophile words for yourself, one example of a number, then please do so. There is absolutely no excuse for anyone not to see the paedophile evil behind LGBTQ. The only possibility, as far as I can see it, of the paralysis of fear in Parliament on LGBTQ issues ever being broken is if an MP stands up on the floor of the House of Commons and says, "The conversion therapy ban is about locking up LGBTQ opponents to help clear the way to abolition of the age of consent. The chances of that ever happening are as close to zero as one can possibly imagine. What might spur an MP to say that is if a Christian Leadership Alliance invited MPs and peers most likely to vote against the conversion therapy ban to a presentation on the plain speaking needed to break the paralysis of fear. The chances of that ever happening are even closer to zero than one can possibly imagine. What passes for cutting-edge Christianity in Britain doesn't do martyrdom. Martyrdom is just so first century, it's just so early church. We 21st century Western Christian sophisticates, we don't do martyrdom. We leave that to our brothers and sisters in Nigeria and the Muslim world and other such places, because when it comes to dying a horrible death and being tortured and being imprisoned under horrendous conditions, they are just so very good at that kind of thing. We are prepared to suffer unpleasantness to show that our faith in Jesus Christ is true. But if we get too much unpleasantness, we'll back off, because we do, after all, have comfortable Western lives to live. The LGBTQ movement is waging a paedophile war against Britain's children, and what we British Christians should be doing is forming a Maginot Line to protect them, willing to lay down life itself to do so. Anything less dishonours Christ. It shows to the onlooking world that our faith in him is empty. Lastly, I'm going to play a clip of the Right Honourable Mike Freer MP, the Equalities Minister, who rounded off the debate at Westminster Hall. Take a listen.
It is certainly my intention that the draft bill, which is expected to be narrow in scope, which clearly sets out what is and what isn't a conversion practice, so that we have that clarity, should be brought forward, I would hope, September, October of this year. But a bill that is around conversion practices, I can't give that cast iron guarantee because I'm not the parliamentary draftsperson, would be amendable.
It very much looks like trans will be included in a conversion therapy ban by amendment. And if that happens, I think the chances it will go through are pretty high. A LGB conversion therapy ban by itself would be a disaster for our democracy and child protection. But a LGBTQ conversion therapy ban would be far, far worse. The future is looking very bleak. But if Boris Johnson can break the chain of cowardice and depravity once, there's hope he will break it again. Will we be another domino that falls? Or will we show the world once more that Britain will stand alone against evil?